Welcome everyone for the second session in terms of the panel discussion that we are having. What we are trying to cover in this particular topic is how the whole global supply chain has actually been disrupted, post the COVID pandemic. And one of the things which has happened is that how the Indian micro, small and medium enterprises as well as corporates have been able to get into or integrated to the global supply chain. In terms of the kind of topics that I'm going to cover, it will actually include whether as a country we have been able to capitalize on this opportunity. Whilst we are capitalizing the opportunity, where were the risks associated during this entire journey, whether we have been able to mitigate or are there opportunities in terms of mitigating those kind of risks associated with it. In addition to that, whether the government has done enough and what are the kind of policy frameworks which the government has come up with. And finally, what's the roadmap is over the next 3 to 5 years period of how as a nation we'll be able to get integrated into this whole global supply chain. We have got three panelists out here, and the three of them put together have over 100 years of experience. I'll try to make most of this opportunity in terms of gathering as much information as possible. So that we go enriched post the session. Before I get into the session, I would just want the individual panelists to just give a brief introduction about themselves. Yeah, you can go first.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let's hear a good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm doing the MC's job now. Sorry, I'm not taking it over. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mohit, Jauhari, and I take care of supply chain for Shriram Pistons and Rings. We have 2 plants and another coming up. We have the mother plant at Ghaziabad. We have a plant at Pathredi and another one coming up at Pithampur, headquartered at New Delhi. As far as I'm concerned, I'm a metallurgical engineer from NIT and followed it up with a MBA in supply chain from SP Jain, Mumbai. Over to you, Mr. Singh.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Gursharan Singh. I am Chairman and Managing Director for RACL Geartech. We actually manufacture gears and shafts for various automotive and industrial applications. We have 2 factories. One factory is in Gajraula, Uttar Pradesh. Second factory again is in Noida. And I'll say that you all have joined this meeting today of DNB. We were also a small SME about 16 years back. DNB listed us as one of the emerging SMEs of tomorrow. So after 16 years, and if I remember exactly the numbers, we have grown almost 20 times in past 15 years. So thanks to DNB for recognizing us. And yes, we have really come up to the level which DNB really portrayed for us. And good luck to all of you also. Thank you.
Thank you, Alok. Fellow panelists, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to all of you. My name is Pawan Agarwal, and I am the Managing Director and CEO of Magma Foods Private Limited. We are into food ingredients and a range of products like dips, pickles, chutneys, such kind of things. We are based out of Odisha, Bhubaneswar. We are basically a SME industry, but trying to graduate to a mid-sized corporate. It's just about 11 to 12 years old company, and we are basically into export, either directly or through merchant export houses. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for the introduction. So maybe, the first question that probably that has come to our mind is especially around that when you talk about the global supply chain, prior to the pandemic, things were quite standard, things were going pretty smoothly. But this whole aspect of the global supply chain was actually challenged post the pandemic. So maybe the first question to you, Pavanji, is specifically around that. How do you think that post the pandemic, how the entire journey of relooking into the global supply chain has actually changed?
Yeah. Thank you, Alok. As we all know, COVID has been a very challenging year for all of us. And when we try to recall those frightening years, yes, it has not been good. I'll just try to narrate you my personal experience, and I'll not talk in general. Because we are into food sector industry, the 2 years of COVID, by default, had been very good to us. The reason being, the buyers all over the world were under panic whether they are going to get their product in time or not. So initially, we had a lot of orders in hand, and they were anticipating that it's going to take a very long time for the material to reach them. But we had our own challenges. The people were not coming to work. There were government restrictions, and certainly we had to overcome them. So we very closely worked with the local government, requested them that please allow us to start our factory. And we gave them all kinds of assurances that we'll be taking all the precautions, all the protocols in place. And very reluctantly, the local government agreed, and they allowed us to work, number one. Then it was convincing our workforce to come and join for work. Again, the same thing there. Again, very reluctant, not ready to work. After a lot of persuasion, lot of extra benefits to be given to them, they started coming. And that's how we started work. And yes, there were supply chain problems also, sending the goods to the port, getting containers. But yes, we could manage, and things started falling in place. And we were meeting, in fact, we were able to meet the demands of our buyers. And that gave them a very, a kind of, a confidence in our ability, and which definitely helped us in the years to come to grow and, make a way for a bigger market share. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Pavanji. So essentially the fact that, when these kind of challenges do come, there are various opportunities which can actually be emanated out of it. So while some of them will think it to be more like a bottleneck, but a lot of them actually converted that into an opportunity. So my next question to you, Gursharan ji, is how in this whole ecosystem, and especially in the last 2-3 years, whether the micro, small and medium enterprises have been able to capitalize on this particular opportunity? What are the kind of opportunities which got created for them?
We were just discussing over the lunch. I was just telling that, many times we business people feel that disruptions are a problem. But I personally feel disruption is never a problem. Disruptions are always the opportunities. These challenges which Pavanji told, they were actually disruptions which emerged out of COVID. Of course, if we see as the humanity or the mankind, COVID was one of the worst challenge which the humanity ever faced. But if we really see the business, we personally feel that these disruptions educated us, these disruptions taught us our strengths. We Indian as a business community, we always feeling, oh, China is here, and we always create certain benchmarks outside our boundaries. These challenges really created to explore our inner strengths. And I will say that these past 3 years have opened up a plethora of opportunities to the Indian business community, whether it is automotive or it is consumers or it is food chain or whatever. But there is a general perception that Indian industry has gained as an overall perspective. And eventually, if we really see past 3 years, first the challenges of COVID-19 came, then suddenly past 2 years, this geopolitical situation in Ukraine and Russia happened. So eventually there were many such disruptions. The supply chains was disrupted throughout the country, and thankfully our Indian ecosystem really took advantage of this. And thanks to our government as well, that the kind of infrastructural improvements have happened in past couple of years. This has also helped our industry to really take up these challenges and reap the benefits. And eventually today's situation is that irrespective what size of company you are, if you are into overseas exports business, you also all of you might have witnessed, yes, there is an increased demand. People are taking across the world India as a serious destination for any of the commodity, for any of the product, for any of the process. You know, if we really see few years down the line, few years before, India was always as a second option or a third option or an number of other supply chain. But in past couple of years, we have actually proven ourselves, yes, we are the country which is to be reckoned with. And given the opportunities which we have reaped in past couple of years, and we really sustain over next few years, of course, we will get benefited as out of our individual businesses, as a country as a whole, and as a business community as a whole as well. So this is my thought process, that whatever opportunities were available, by and by, we have been able to reap those opportunities. But this was only tip of the iceberg. There is a huge plethora of opportunities which are underneath. We have to really explore them as well. So it's not the end of the road, it is just the beginning. And beginning is a very, very humble. In fact, our Prime Minister, a couple of days back only said within the next 5-10 years, we will be the third largest economy. So it really shows the kind of opportunities our government is forcing, and the kind of opportunities are available. Even all the world monetary bodies, IMF, even Dun & Bradstreet also has raised very, very optimistic future for the Indian industry. So this was just from my side.
Thanks, Gursharan ji. One particular thing, I can just back it up with some of the things which Gursharan ji just mentioned. Specifically in terms of the interest which global customers or global companies are having on Indian businesses. So just to give you a number, like about 4 years back, the number of checks which are happening on to the DNB database was about 1 million records. Now, fast forward in 4 years time period, the number of checks actually have increased 5-fold, which means that global customers outside of India are quite keen to engage with businesses in the country. And more importantly, when you talk about, in fact, in one of the prior sessions, Dr. Singh actually elaborated, 75% of these checks are happening on the micro, small and medium enterprises. And we've also seen that businesses who have actually had checks on them, they were able to actually get into a business transactions with global companies. And the other aspect also is that earlier the trade used to be probably into US or Canada. Now it has actually shifted significantly in terms of trying to identify market opportunities, especially in Europe and other Asian markets. So, to that probably, the next question I would try to pose it to Mohit. So Mohit, one of the aspect is that given this whole aspect of digitization, and the pandemic actually made everybody digital enabled, and we were forced to actually adapt to digital mediums. So what do you think is the role in terms of how digital technology has played a role in this particular ecosystem?
Thanks, Alok. It's a very pertinent question, although it is it's getting repeated and repeatedly getting asked at various forums. But whatever we say about it, we have just got started. I'll just throw out some numbers. First and foremost, SMEs and the micro enterprises are going to be the growth drivers as far as our immediate next target of $5 trillion economy is concerned. So that's how important this sector is. And Alok just mentioned a few set of numbers that 76% or thereabouts of the transactions are happening there. So while the ticket value could be small, but the numbers are huge and they're going to grow further. They, as it is, as of now, contribute to about 30% of our economy, the SMEs and the micro enterprises. And most importantly, on the export front, they contribute to a humongous 40%. So they are not small by any stretch of imagination. They are becoming bigger by the day. 40% is a huge mass that they are controlling as far as exports are concerned, and the avenues are opening up. A pre-COVID study of Yes Bank, they did a study on 2,700 such companies spread across 20 sectors, and they found out that only 5% were digitally enabled or digitally strong. Now, cut that to what happened post-COVID, I'll just share the numbers once again. A survey which was done, that these 5%, a survey when it was done in 2021 revealed that these 5% survived and thrived after, or in fact during the pandemic. So their turnovers went robust. They grew by say 70%, their profitability increased by 80%, and these are all published numbers which were published by Indian Council for Research on International Economic Relations. And 60%, or in fact 80% of the respondents reported to increase in sales during the pandemic also. So that's the kind of impact digitalization can have on companies. And as a result of this pandemic, as Mr. Singh was also mentioning, there's a huge change in the mindset which has happened. So not just the 5%, now the balance 95% are also getting into digitalization in a big way. Whether they are there or not is something of a conjecture or something which can be spoken of or thought about, but they are well on their way to digitalization. Now, they'll need some kind of a support. They'll need support from the government. They'll need support from the behemoths and the big companies. Like, say, for example, FedEx has a program which they call the Small Business Grant Commission, wherein they identify the most innovative of these SMEs, and then they grant financial assistance. So these are the kind of things which are already panning out. So companies which are adopting digitalization are the ones, in fact, the one which won this award recently is a highly digitized company. I won't name that company, but that's how things have been working out. Another support system on the digitalization front is a lot of extra or out of companies are supporting companies doing digitalization. When I say out of companies who have thrived, who have just sprung out of nowhere and are providing services to companies becoming digital. That's how big this sector is becoming, wherein a lot of startups in this space are opening up. But this is what the new generation startups are. We have a lot of logistics companies who are tying up with these MSMEs and the SMEs. And you would want to know how. These logistics companies, the global ones, they have huge setups across the globe. So what is it that the SMEs want to do? They want to achieve operational excellence, productivity improvement, cost optimization through digitization. But the most important thing is they want to kind of have happy customers. They want to achieve customer delight, which can be done by these logistics companies, because when the MSMEs or the SMEs tie up with these logistics companies, this opens the whole world to these companies. And by using the leverage of, or leveraging the technology which these logistics service providers already have, they are reaching the globe. And they are able to recall shipments, they are able to transship shipments, they are able to do whatever the customer needs to be made delighted or happy. So that's the kind of support that's coming to them. A lot of emphasis also needs to be put in on having a digitally empowered manpower base. So you will have to, the MSMEs and the SMEs will have to onboard a lot of millennials, because millennials are the ones who are going to drive. So for example, taking nothing away from Mr. Singh, but if he has someone of a millennial whiz kid who kind of knows what is to be done by way of a digital intervention is concerned, and Mr. Singh or Mr. Pawan for that matter knows the landscape. So that is going to be the deadly combination. When I say a deadly combination, he is going to be the co-driver, or either of them is going to be the co-driver who knows the terrain, and the digital whiz kid is going to help him maneuver the train. So he knows where to go, how to go and all that. But doing it efficiently is going to be managed by the millennial whiz kid. So that's the kind of bonding that has to come about in companies. So the old gray hairs have to gel with the new ones, newbies and millennials. And things are going to make, digitalization is going to make so much of a difference. I cannot overemphasize on this, but digitalization is the way to survive first and then thrive in this whole setup. That's my take on this. Thank you.
Very well put, Mohit ji. In fact, that leads me to an interesting area, that when you talk about one of the strategies in terms of trying to embrace the digital ecosystem and trying to get in the new millennial generation into the business. So maybe my next question to Pawan ji is especially around the fact that One is the strategy in terms of digitization. What are the other key strategies that an MSME can actually implement, and maybe from your experience, to actually capitalize on this opportunity?
Thank you, Alok. I'll talk to you, just from the perspective of small and medium enterprises. In this ever-changing world, everything is dynamic and everything is in our mind. Most of the small enterprises, they think that, things are not going to work for them, this will not happen. I'll just share with you one thing that, once we think that, okay, a particular state of India is my market, then, our thought process is limited to that only. Once we start thinking that, no, the whole of India is our market, then definitely we start increasing our horizon. Similarly, we have to think big, what I mean to say. And once we started thinking big, we have a vision. I don't think so. It is very difficult to achieve if we are focused, if we have a roadmap, if we have a plan. I'll share with you my very own personal experiences. I don't have any data and statistics because I am here as a stopgap arrangement because one of the panelists dropped out, so I am here. We are a very new company, and when I say new, that we are only about 11 to 12 years old. We started as a micro enterprise, but now we are small, and we definitely strive to be one of the medium companies into near term. We are making certain products out of tamarind fruit, in Hindi what we call imli, and USA is a very big market for us. In USA, any product made out of tamarind is automatically detained by FDA, Food and Drug Authority, at the port. And samples are drawn, certain tests are conducted, like microbiology, like filth and all. And after you pass all the tests, then it is allowed to enter. So definitely it's a big challenge. Suppose, per se, your consignment is rejected, then there's a challenge even to destroy that consignment, it has got a cost. Not only you are losing the whole of money, you are again further incurring some money to destroy. But we knew the challenges, but we took up the challenge. And today we are green listed. Green listed means that none of our consignment is held up at the port. Yes, they can do random sampling, but it passes. Because we think that we have to align to the international standards. That is number one. We have to become the best into food safety management. And I'm proud to say that today my company is BRC grade A plus rated company, which is one of the highest international standards into food safety. We are also ESG compliant. ESG means environment, then your social responsibility and sustainability, and governance. So you have to have certain parameters. There are certain agencies who come and rate you. And then you have to tell your customers that, okay, you are such and such. So what I mean to say is that you have to align to the world standards if you want to be there in that market, most important. And for that, we have to open our mindsets, that all. If there is a will, there is a way. It's going to happen. Yes, definitely challenges will come. There will be hurdles in the way, but definitely we can overcome. So my advice to my friends, I know you all are here seasoned businessmen, very successful in their own venture. But we have to think big, we have to look big, and whatever challenges are there, definitely we can overcome if we're ready to do that. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Pawanji. Pawanji, one particular thing you touched upon, especially on the ESG. Now, when we did some analysis, we found out that the maximum number of regulations specifically around ESG actually emanates out of Europe. And we are actually seeing a lot of shift in terms of European businesses looking in for businesses or engaging in businesses within India. Now, when you talk about engaging with European markets, the critical aspect is that it's important that you are able to provide them with a good quality product, ensuring that you are compliant with the ESG, because if you're not engaging with them, if you're not actually compliant on those areas, at times there could be a risk in terms of actually losing the business with them. And to that, Gursharan ji, if you can just share some views in terms of the challenges that, especially the micro, small and medium enterprises needs to look into in this particular area when they're actually looking in for cross-border trade.
In fact, the way Pawanji mentioned about ESG and the Anil has told you, this ESG compliance has actually emerged out of Europe. And if we really say Europe, out of Europe, even Germany was the first country who really started this. And background was that, like in our countries, we have one ruling party and opposition parties. So there the opposition party said, okay, look, you are shifting business out of Germany or Europe to third world countries, and eventually you are creating the job cuts. And how you ensure that out of the third world countries there is no human exploitations and the human rights abuse is not there or such thing. And eventually European Union adopted a very, very stringent norms on ESG compliance. And they are really serious challenges in coming time. And particularly for the small and mid organizations, we all must understand the needs in a very, very serious way. Just to give you an example, few years back, we all were considering only ISO 9001 or IATF or maybe ISO 14001 and maybe some OSAS standards came. But now there are so many new norms, new ratings, new certifications. Biggest is information security. We are working with a European big brand BMW. BMW has given us a very, very clear mandate that from 1st October 2023, you will not get even an RFQ if you are not information security certified. Leave aside the business, even RFQ will not be raised. That's a different thing that we were already certified in April 2023. From 1st April 2025, same BMW has fixed norms, not only on us, to the entire Indian supply chain, that the production happening for BMW has to be from 100% non-conventional energy. Imagine, you cannot produce their production out of biofuel or the coal base or all such thing. It has to be non-conventional energy. Such kind of seriousness on the environment or the sustainability. Coming to sustainability, I was just sharing one of our audit which was done by BMW only a couple of months back. Typically in our Indian business scenario, what happens? The workman is very happy working on Sunday, working in second shift, third shift, on overtime. And we also know some of the smaller industries, we always have a system of 12 hours of working, 8 hours duty and 4 hours overtime. Big OEMs across the Europe don't accept this. Even when our audit was happening, they found that we have given some overtime to the people who were there all 31 days. It's besides the point that our workers are happy. It's besides the point that we are making double overtime, whatever are the norms laid down by the government. But the European Union customer says, look, if you are putting them 31 days in the factory, you are damaging his personal life, you are damaging his social life, you are damaging his health. So you people have to take care of this also. So this mindset change has to be there, first of all, in our entrepreneurs. Because if we have to really go for the future, and particularly in the European Union, maybe other countries have less stringent, but still it's not that it's not there. Stringent on norms on ESG compliance are everywhere going to be more and more stringent. And leave aside the overseas countries, in coming years, our own country also will have many, many such restrictions, many, many such norms, many, many such regulations that we have to have this compliance is met. One more important thing which, 15 years back, we were also a very, very small company of the size of 15-20 crores revenue per year. Today we are doing 500 crores revenue per year, so we have really seen all those stages. But normally, in our small and mid-size organizations, we feel many of the certifications or many of the regulations are just for getting the licenses from the government, whether it's a pollution, whether it's air pollution or a water pollution or any such thing. So we have our mindset, okay, look, if we are certified, we have got NOCs for fire or air or water safety, so it means all is good. But now those things are not required. Now they are not sufficient. Now norms are, we have to actually do it. You have to actually make the change happen. If you are saying environment management, if we are saying, like, imagine water pollution. You know, our factory is about 7 kilometers from Ganga. Our government had this Namami Gange project. So in this, they said that within 10 kilometers of Ganga, all industries will have a very, very serious compliance on the water pollution. Can you imagine our water treatment plant has the probes put into the treated water and raw water? Those probes are generated through, linked through internet to the Central Pollution Control Board website. And where those probes are mounted into raw water and the finished water, there are video cameras put over there. So that many people found the shortcut. They put some beaker of clean water and always put probe into that, so that the Central Pollution Control Board website always gets a good data. This is our own country which has done this kind of regulations. And believe me, this was done about 3-4 years back. We took these challenges so seriously that our company, as on today, we are zero water discharge company, and water which is our effluent or our sewerage water, it is drinkable water. Our TDS is 150 after treatment. And now when Pollution Control Board department executives come, they now narrate our story to the neighboring industries. You know, this is my message to you, that don't feel that these compliances are now just for the sake of it or getting the certification. No. You all have to gear up. We all have to gear up that our customers are really now more alert than us. Our own country, our own regulations are going to be more and more stringent in future. So we have to really be prepared for this, and we have to get everything put up into our costing formats. Because we always feel, yeah, okay, whatever, let's do business. No, in this business, we have to take care of these issues with a very, very serious note. In our investment plan, in our capital expenditures, we must keep sufficient provisions for investing on these gadgets, investing on these equipment.
So, Gursharan, one particular thing.
This was my thought.
One particular thing around this is always that, you know, everybody thinks that it is a cost of compliance, it will increase the price of the product, whether there is a market around it, whether the customers are willing to pay, you know, in terms of that kind of money. So maybe, you know, to Mohitji probably, I can probably ask Mohitji about this, that what are the ways in terms of trying to mitigate this strategy and trying to make ourselves, you know, more quality conscious driven and play to our advantage while engaging in the cross-border trade?
I think as we were discussing over lunch, this is becoming a hygiene factor. I mean, companies expecting all kinds of compliances, especially from exports out of India, is going to be the norm. As Mr. Singh also mentioned, that come 1st October, some of the companies are not going to get RFQs even if they are not so-and-so compliant and all that kind of stuff. So once companies realize this, and the sooner we do it, the better it is. In fact, as I said, it's going to become hygiene, and all of us have to ensure that we comply to this. I'd also like to bring about some, I mean, I'll kind of pick your brains to some extent. How many of us are SMEs or micro enterprises? If I could just see the hands over here. Now, there was a survey done recently. So there's a count of say about 20 that I could see. So, yeah, there was a survey which was published recently wherein they identified the top challenges. And I'm sure all of you, the 20 guys who lifted their hands, are going to relate to this. The top challenges for micro industries are, first is recruitment and retention. Do we agree? The second is inflation and prices, which seem to be going haywire. Ukraine gave us an example of how prices can skyrocket overnight and all that kind of stuff, especially for items, specifically if I were to talk about, say, nickel or those kind of precious metals which used to come from Ukraine and thereabouts. Are we in sync about the number 2 problem? The number 3 problem is lack of capital and cash flow. Is that the case? I mean, here, so you are well managed, all of you. Because some time back in one of the panels, or maybe a presentation was made wherein it was stated that MSMEs bear the brunt or SMEs bear the brunt because the people in the middle, for example, in the auto sector, the OEMs work on a negative cash flow at the expense of the suppliers and the customers. So that's how difficult it is to survive in this kind of a scenario. So I'll give you some solutions as well. Then the other is supply chain issues. You are the ones who face them the most because you have the weakest, in not a derogatory manner, but you are dependent on a lot of other people to manage your supply chains. So that's how things become difficult for you. And the other is, just give me a sec. Yeah, marketing and advertising. That's one of your Achilles heels because you kind of don't have the wherewithal to manage all of this. And most importantly, the 6th one which came about in the survey was the digitalization strategies. Most MSMEs struggle to have a digital roadmap. So while these are problems, and problems are galore, I mean, coming to this particular facility itself was a problem, I guess, for some of us in the morning with all the traffic and the chaotic stuff on the roads. Now the solutions are several. If I were an SME or an MSME, I would make sure that I retain my employees come what may. There are companies globally like DEXA or DOXA, and we heard a gentleman from KEKA sharing similar thoughts as in you can harness such kind of companies to manage your workforce, but most importantly, make your employees feel important because they are the ones who are dealing with the customers. So if the MSMEs and the SMEs make sure that the employees are motivated by way of reward and recognition and all that, they'll kind of make sure that your company is well represented in the eyes of the customer. So that's very important. Coming to inflation, please be upfront in asking for cash wherever you're going to infuse a lot of cash in servicing a customer order. There's no shying away from it. That's one take which MSMEs and SMEs should focus on. They should kind of go for bill discounting wherever required so as to manage their cash flows better. You cannot be killing yourself or getting killed by servicing your customers. So be upfront because it's a matter of survival. If you don't, then someone else is going to make merry on your money. So that's how it is. Plus, I mean, there's a lot of franchisee adoption which is happening in this space. As per a recent study done in 2023, 35% of the new businesses in this space are taking the franchisee route, and only 21% are new generation entrepreneurs. So that's another thing which is shaping out in this space. Lack of cash flow. In fact, in dollar terms, as per a survey, only 14% of the companies could muster up adequate capital to get started. They had to depend upon a lot of other factors. Companies also need to be cognizant of how they manage the cash flow. You need to be very, very focused and particular about how you manage your inventories, how you prioritize inventories, how you look into each and every. There could be a smallest contract which could be eating up a lot of maybe 1% or 0.5% of your cash flows or your money. So please be very cognizant of this and make sure that each and every contract which leads to money going out is scrutinized at a very serious level. Marketing and advertising, it has been a challenge, but it can become easy by use of social media. Start using social media channels, start using Instagrams. As I said, you have millennials in your workforce, talk to them as to what their peer group is thinking about stuff, and make sure that they are the ones who are leading your customer outreach, because they know what the customer wants. And as far as digitalization is concerned, I think I spoke enough on that, but there are plenty of ready-made programs which are available. You don't have to invest in technology which is custom made for you. You can pluck it out from the market, start using it, but make sure that you integrate it with your backend systems. There cannot be 2 sets or 3 sets of information and then someone sitting on a Excel sheet and trying to make sense of that data. It never works.
So
you have to have a
very
seamless.
interesting part in terms of the seamless part that you're talking
you
about.
have to have a very seamless.
So the idea is to get a end-to-end single source of truth of information, when you're actually engaging into business. I'll just try to shift the gear a bit. We have been talking about the kind of opportunities which have got created through this whole pandemic, and how India is able to capitalize on this opportunity. Whether the government has done enough, because we are talking about Make in India, we're talking about Startup India. Government is trying to get into engagements with UK, with US. Already we have a lot of FTAs being under discussion. So just wanted to have your view, Gursharan ji, in terms of the government initiatives. Are this enough, or are there something more that the government should be doing?
Look, our economy was, I think, liberated from clutches of government way back, I think 35 years, probably in 1991. Okay. To be very honest, if I ask any of the question to any of you member and even ask what support we need from the government, actually we need, government should give us 24 hours uninterrupted power supply, good end-to-end connectivity between our factories to the ports if we are exporting, and if connectivity to our customers if we are into domestic business. Technically, what you say, infrastructure. I feel in past decade, our country has done a lot in both these fronts. I do not know we are from which states, generally since in Delhi, so probably most of people will be from NCR region. But since our factory is in UP, so 5 years back, 6 years back, we were in notorious state in terms of the availability of power. Today I am happy to say that other than these power cuts when this too much of rain or storms occur, otherwise there is a zero power shortage, at least in industry. So that I'll say government has done a great job into this. And I feel the same impression is in Punjab, Haryana, so because we have a supply chain partners across the northern states, generally availability of power is good. Same way the connectivity of cities to the ports is improving, and government has lots and lots of initiatives. I feel this government is doing a very good job on at least creating the infrastructure, whether it's the roads or it is ports or the airports or the power and so on. Of course, there are other issues, law and order and all such things. Of course, these are the minor things, but we are Indians, so we are resilient, so we know how to work under such difficult circumstances also. One good thing which I have also witnessed past few years or maybe even a last decade, generally the work environment scenario also has improved a lot. Maybe 5-10 years back, every here and there were strikes, lockouts, all such things. So this also has now waned away. By and by now, scenario, work environment is good. In this, it's not only the government has done any great thing, it is industries also have done a great thing. We have also realized that the people who are working with us, they have to be paid good wages. Because, old school thought was always, okay, let us conserve on making salary payments to the employees. But now this school thought has changed. So that has also helped a lot. And technically, I'll say that overall work environment also has improved a lot. And we request government, of course, in our company, because I again started with the power, I said uninterrupted power. Uninterrupted power is still missing, at least in northern India, because I don't feel any of us can live without standby diesel generating sets. We still need to have a DG set, irrespective we use it for 10 hours or 50 hours, but still we need to have it because we cannot have trust that this power will always be available. When we go to Europe or United States or to Japan, a small thing comes to my mind. Once we had a vendor delegation to Japan. Yamaha organized this visit. And one supplier across those delegation asked the Yamaha management that what happens if, because they had a highly robotized and automated plant, and we Indians always feel, yaar, ki power chale jayega to kya hoga? So some gentlemen from the vendors asked question to a Yamaha person, sir, what happens if the power goes? I am telling you, this was somewhere in 1998. That Japanese did not respond immediately, says, sir, I will let you know after some time. Since it was for a few days, next day when again the meeting started, that Japanese rose up, sir, I checked in our factory, the last time power went was 1983, and that was also with 1 month of advance notice. Okay. So our country still has to come up to that level. So to answer, Anil, to your question, that let this government work. Right now the real focus is on generation. I tell you, this government has done a lot in generation, but distribution and transmission is still in shambles. All these power cuts which we are getting, it's not because of shortage of capacity now. Okay, this is only because of very poor distribution and transmission network, for which government must take immediate corrective action. Because availability of power and quality power, I personally feel as on today, this is the biggest support required from the government. Other things generally are good, and I feel we are able to handle it.
Sure. So with this, I'll just come to the last section of the session. And this is essentially around the fact that today we are talking a lot about this China plus one strategy of global multinational companies opening up shops in India. We are seeing Tesla actually, now finally agreeing on to setting up its operations. Apple has its factory set up. Now they're looking for another factory to come up. Similarly, what I've heard in between, like I engage with a lot of global customers. So Amazon plans to expand its investments in India to a tune of about $25 billion. So you're seeing a lot of those kind of investments coming in. So, one question to Mohit ji would be specifically that how do you see that the way the whole infrastructure is being developed, the kind of FTA agreements being, entered into, and the kind of investments coming into the country, what's in store over the next 3-5 years, specifically for the small enterprises, medium enterprises, and large enterprises?
And to add one more name to the list that you just mentioned, Sony has reported that they're going to get into India as far as manufacturing is concerned.
Yeah.
That's in newspapers today morning. So a lot is happening. And as far as SMEs is concerned, see the advantages that we have. We all know we are a very good English-speaking community. We have a lot of young, skilled and semi-skilled and not so skilled workforce as well, which is anyways getting skilled by trial and error, so to say. I see a lot of you smiling because we see a lot of trials happening with the Google generation which has passed out of colleges, but they know what they're doing anyways. So we have a lot of government interventions, rupee transactions, Make in India. These are not just jargons, they're actually taking shape and are going to help MSMEs, SMEs in a big way. So there are 5 or 6 sectors which are going to thrive in this. Now, for example, textiles, it contributes to about 5% of India's GDP and 12% of exports. So this is one sector which is going to benefit majorly. Then there's going to be a lot of traction in metals, especially the specialty metals, so to say. Chemicals, today's newspaper has it, PLI is coming in chemicals as well. Chemicals, China enjoys a 35% market share, whereas we are only at about 3%. Now with the PLI coming in, we could see at least a 3 to 4-fold jump over the next 5 to 7 years. That's the kind of projections that we have for this. Pharmaceuticals, we are 20%, but you could easily be 40%, 50%, especially with the kind of negative publicity that China has garnered over the past couple of years. Semiconductors, this is going to be one of the most shining sectors. There's some coverage in the newspaper today. I'm not able to recollect the exact thing, but they're going to promote it in a big way. PLI, DLI, all that is there specifically. Now, these are some of the sectors. Then the other ones which are going to survive and thrive in the near future are auto components, battery, electronics, food processing, which Mr. Pawan represents, medical devices, because there's a PLI scheme which has taken shape and it's going to help SMEs grow. But all is not hunky-dory. As far as a panel report of members of parliament is concerned, they say we seem to be losing out, to the countries. We seem to be losing out to countries like Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, Cambodia for that matter. So Ajay Banga, who was here recently, made a statement that we cannot be looking at a 10-year horizon to make a dent into the China Plus One strategy. We should be doing it right now. And the maximum window available to us is 3 to 5 years. So we'll have to actually start becoming very, very aggressive. So a lot of support from the government will be required, but the initiative will have to come from all of us, I guess. That's my take on this.
Thanks so much, Mohitji. Pawanji, like, you are exporting to almost over 10 countries. So what is it that is your strategy in terms of trying to grow your pie in the overall ecosystem, especially on the cross-border trade? And if you could share your views over the next 3 to 5 years, what the strategy should be specifically on the exports bit?
Thank you, Alok. What I foresee is in the years to come is that most important, and to be very specific, that we have to align to the world standards and do how the world is doing business if we want to remain in this space. Especially talking about the food industry, yes, food industry has got immense potential. Not only into exports, but also in India, domestically. If we see at the changing habits of the people, how the people eat now, because how the demography is changing, the working class, the cooking habits are changing. If you see how the business of Zomato, Swiggy is growing, there's immense potentiality. And if we try to encash onto that, try to come out with new products, what the consumer wants, domestically and internationally both, I think there's a lot of opportunity happening there. Yes, we as a company are working into that. What I mean to say that is not that what we make, we have to sell it. We have to see that what the consumer actually wants. So we have to focus especially that what the consumer desires, and that we have to make. So the most important thing what I feel is that marketing is definitely going to be the biggest challenge, even if we come out with new products, because I personally think is that other challenges like production, like your finance and your technology, actually those things can be overcome. But we have to focus on marketing, because I think marketing is going to be the biggest challenge in times to come.
Sure. Thank you so much, Pawanji. Gursharan, last question to you, again in terms of the outlook over the next 3-5 years, especially the fact that 70% of the business that you do are from cross-border trade, and you're actually able to double your exports in the last 4 years. I'm sure there are a lot of trick up your sleeves, so maybe if you would want to just share your experience in terms of what's the outlook over the next 3-5 years and how do we capitalize it?
So I'll first say that Pawanji is in a very, very good business segment, because food is such a thing, there will never be a recession. Founder of McDonald's said, I read his book, he says, why enter into McDonald's food business, that he says that food, irrespective pandemic or endemic or war or whatever, one has to have 3 foods a day and 8 billion people, so you have always, never recession in the food business. But yes, coming to other kinds of businesses, there are always challenges, there are always opportunities, and only skill lies how we convert our challenges into opportunities and our threats into strengths. Now, if I really see how we have, like Anil said, that we have improved our exports almost 4 times in past 4 years, yes, it is true. And in coming years, the same trends are going to continue. What strategy we have adopted and what strategy we are trying to continue, and the message which I want to give to all of you gentlemen, please focus on technologies, please focus on modernization, because the traditional way of working is not going to survive anymore. One always have to have a latest technologies across the world, whatever is available, please try to put them into your own manufacturing plant. Please put them into own manufacturing processes. Never worry on the cost. We always feel, oh, we'll put so heavy investment, who will pay for the cost? Don't worry, customer is always there to pay you the cost. Provided you can give him enough confidence that what he needs, you will not only supply that, rather you will do better than that. Because customer, what he expects 100% on time, 100% good quality, and a flexible approach. Because these days, demands are, because I am giving more on the automotive perspective because we are from this field. We are automotive users also. Every 2 years, models are changing. Every 6 months, facelifts are happening. And every 5 years, today, aspiring young generation, every 5 years, we are changing our cars, motorcycles, tractors, whatever it is there. Why? Because there are new models, new things coming. Eventually, the entire supply chain has to be very, very flexible. So we have to adopt our processes. We have to change our mindset to be flexible. Future is very, very bright for Indian industry. Opportunities are there. Two big opportunities are there. But as Mohit said, that time is limited. It's not only we are growing. Our neighbors are also growing. Bangladesh is, I heard that now they are the second largest textile exporters across the world after South Korea probably. So this is how the demographic changes are happening. Whether it's Vietnam or Malaysia or Thailand, everybody is growing. India has a very big chance for growth because we have 1.4 billion people. We have a huge domestic market. But if we have 1.4 billion people, we have those many opportunities and challenges also. So we have to really take lessons from here for future. Please upgrade your technologies, upgrade your systems. And if you are doing B2C business, I tell you India is the biggest consumer market. So let the focus remain on the domestic market. If you have to focus on exports business, try to find out B2B business as high as possible. And keep your focus on developing economies also, but never consider only Latin America and Africa or Asian countries as your export destinations. Your thought process should be export destinations to developed economies. Think big. Our company is exporting to China. So Hindi mein bolte hain, ulte baans bareli ko. So people import from China, we export to China. This is how one has to create his own market, one has to create his own niche. And Pawanji also said, always think big, always keep higher aspirations. And never underestimate your own capabilities. We always feel, bahar se humko order kaun dega? No. You really aspire to get orders. You say, I have to export to Germany, you will get buyer from Germany. So this is how. And focus on developed economies, because what I am saying, when you focus on creating technologies, then you need buyers also who pay you that kind of prices for your product. But eventually you have to create your own ecosystem within the four walls of your company. Okay? Because we can't change country overnight, but we can change our four walls. Within the four walls, create a setup which customer needs. And then whole of world is at your gate. You need not to go to your market your product. Customer will come to your gate. Because today's internet age, frankly speaking, advertisement, marketing for B2C companies, businesses, yes, challenges there. But for B2B businesses, you have to really focus on creating a very, very strong technology with you, very, very strong, robust quality systems with you, very, very strong human resource or information security or the all such systems in place, then whole of world is for you. This is my message to all of you people, and I feel if you can really put an iota of this, you can really increase your business many-folds. One thing which I will try to tell you from my side, size does matter. We are micro companies, then we should always aspire to become small as soon as possible. If we are small, we should aspire to be medium as soon as possible, because size does matter. Because eventually, if we do not grow, we start declining. And the kind of inflations are happening in the country, every year 5, 6, 7% we have to grow. So that is the bare minimum. So we have to really keep growing. So